Hi there, this is Stephanie Langdon of WhatRDsDo.com. I'm going to be going live in a couple minutes speaking about my interview series. So just sort of hanging out here while a couple of you jump on the call. Maybe you have some questions for me. Feel free to type those in. Again, Stephanie Langdon, registered dietitian. I have WhatRDsDo.com, which is a weekly interview series. You can also follow me on various channels. I have a personal website as well, which is stephlangdon.com. If you are out there on Instagram, it's at WhatRDsDo. On Twitter, at NutritiousRD, and that's because my private practice, which I started almost 9 years ago now, was called, or is called, Something Nutritious. On Facebook, you can find my page, Steph Langdon RD, or at at NutritiousRD there as well. The hashtag WhatRDsDo is out there. I think it started in the UK. They also use the hashtag WhatDietitiansDo. So lots of people are speaking about the uniqueness of our profession. So we're going to get started right away. Feel free to type in your questions. Thank you for joining me today. I'm here on the West Coast, so it's still morning here, and I know it's almost noon for some of you out there, so hope your Fridays are going well so far. Of course, feel free to put in any questions you have. Because I do have an interview series, I am also always looking for interested people. So you can feel free to nominate people, feel free to tell me what you do if you feel you have a really unique career story or unique path. Maybe you're a career changer, maybe there's something very unconventional or non-traditional about what you do, and those are the types of things that I love to share. So I am here today for Build Up Dietitians, talking about my own series, WhatRDsDo.com. And I guess just a little bit about myself. I say that I am currently a mom first, then a dietitian, and then an advocate, which I just sort of fell into. I didn't plan on advocacy being a real big part of my career, but I guess ever since I obtained my credential, I was very proud of it. I was, if I was saying this is my business, I always made sure that I included that I'm a dietitian. Like many of you, we've had those conversations where we have to clarify that dietitians and nutritionists are not the same thing. And I'm actually not currently working as a dietitian. I'm working, well, not really working. I am being a full-time mom, so an unpaid job that is very tiring and has its unique challenges, but still maintaining that credential that I worked hard for, that you worked hard for, and still trying to help to educate the public about the various things that we do, because we are capable of working in a variety of settings. We do work in a variety of settings, and I've only worked in some of those spots. I have done a variety of different things throughout my career, but it's great to then be able to share all the diversity and the variety that exists within our profession. I know many of you have probably had those conversations with people. What's the difference between a dietitian? What's the difference between a nutritionist? Or as soon as you introduce yourself as a dietitian, I know from my personal experience, right away someone either feels guilty about what they're eating or drinking in front of you, or they're asking you about the latest diet, or that they should sit down with you to get a meal plan or talk about some weight loss. And for me, for a big part of my career, that wasn't what I do or did. There are definitely dietitians that work in weight loss. There are definitely dietitians that create meal plans, but we are capable of a lot more than that, and our educational background helps us to be able to do a lot of different things. So thank you for joining me. We are at 12 noon Eastern time, so 9 o'clock over here for me on the West Coast. I am currently a stay-at-home mom. This is Stephanie Langdon, registered dietitian of WhatRDsDo.com. If you're just joining, feel free to pop on over to the website, check out my series. It's an international interview series, which I post weekly, and I started it back in September 2015, so it's been going for 3.5, almost 4 years now, which I didn't imagine. That wasn't my intention when I first started it. But it's a great resource for people because it is it's an e-interview series. It allows people to complete the questions at their earliest convenience. And I'm a mom at home, so I have 2 young kids. I have an almost 2-year-old and a 4.5-year-old, so I have to be flexible, and my current situation with e-interviews and working online allows me to be flexible and do those types of things. I can work at various hours that I need to work, and I think that's representative of the career I created for myself. So I feel like I have a bit of a different story, but then when I read all the stories on my series, we all have our unique stories. There's no one correct or straight path by any means to becoming a dietitian. This series, I do ask, I think it's 7 mandatory questions, and then there's optional questions for those who would like to tell more about themselves. But it's a great way to see why someone got into the profession. Sometimes we find out that a lot of people were already in college or university before they even considered studying nutrition or knew what a dietitian was. Other people maybe came across it at a younger age. Maybe they had a parent that was familiar with the profession, or that saw that the child was really interested in culinary related things and thought that that might be an appropriate path. I've read stories of people that started out on a different path. I was studying arts and sciences, so potentially working towards a physiology degree. And that's when I decided to take Nutrition 101. I really enjoyed the class. That's a story I've heard from a lot of people too, that they took that first nutrition class and they were like, yeah, this is for me. This is what I want to continue studying. I was also an elite athlete at the time, so I was playing on our Canadian national volleyball team. So by the time I applied to our College of Nutrition and got accepted, I actually missed the first semester with my classmates because I was off training in a different city, sort of studying on my own from afar, and then joined my classmates in that January. So I was sort of the last one to join our group, and our class was about 25 students, so a small group. Did all my undergrad with them, and then when it was time for our internship, which in our program we were fortunate that was an included part of our degree, when it was time for that, I was ready to go play professional volleyball over in Finland. So I spoke with my professors and figured out, like, how am I going to do this? This is what I want to do right now. And instead of convocating in 2007 with my classmates, I actually ended up postponing that, and I came back later after playing a season over in Finland and doing some other things. I came back and finished up my degree and my internship in 2010. So thank you for those of you who are just joining me. This is Stephanie Langdon doing a Facebook Live for Build Up Dietitians. I have a interview website, WhatRDsDo.com. You can find out more about myself at my website, stephlangdon.com as well. So just back to my own career story, what I do or what I have done. So that was 2010. Because I had some time between doing my undergrad and doing my internship, I had some time to think about what I was planning to do with this degree once it was all done, once I finished our national exam, once I was a registered dietitian. What was that going to look like for me? I was an athlete, so definitely was drawn to the world of sport nutrition. And again, when you look in this series, people that work in the area of sports nutrition often have athletic backgrounds or have been coaches or have somehow been related to sports and athletics, and that led them to that field of practice. So I thought I wanted to be a sport dietitian, but in Canada, we don't have a lot of sport dietitian full-time jobs. They are spread out across the country for our different national training centers. But basically at the time, I felt like if I wanted to work with athletes, I was going to have to go into private practice. And that wasn't really a big thing in my province. I'm a Canadian-born, Canadian-educated dietitian, but I come from a smaller province with smaller cities, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And we're a very agriculture-based province, but I am definitely a city girl, so I don't know a lot about farming, or I didn't know a lot about farming in my undergrad or early business years. So figuring out I wanted to work for myself, had to learn the ropes of running a business, which you'll see on the series, WhatRDsDo.com, that a lot of people have figured out how to be entrepreneurs, what a private practice can be, because that's not just one thing either. So I felt like I was going to start this. I was graduating. I was ready to go. I'd given it a lot of thought. It wasn't just a spur of the moment decision by any means. So I started my business, Something Nutritious, and I started right into one-on-one counseling and coaching of people. Definitely, as I mentioned, I wanted to do sport nutrition, having been an athlete myself, and that was my first sort of practical application of the nutrition knowledge I had was as an athlete. But then over time and trying to grow a practice, trying to make some money, I felt like I was being a little bit more of a generalist, so trying to take on lots of people, trying to help a variety of people. But there was always a part of me that felt that I really wanted to be a specialist. I didn't want to be a generalist because I felt that I could offer better services if I focused on what I really knew lots about, and if I had more of a niche, which I'm sure you've seen a lot of people have carved out those specific groups and targets for themselves. So started off doing the one-on-one stuff through sport nutrition, through our local sport council. I was able to meet some of our commodity and agriculture groups, and that actually led me to doing presentations. There was a focus on sport nutrition for young athletes, so sort of I think it was the 13 to 18-year-old group. So that took me all over our province, which was really great. I got to travel, I got to see corners of the place I grew up that I had never actually visited, and I spent time with young athletes, and having been an athlete, it was a really strong story because I could say, you know, this is what I've done, this is what our research says, and here's how food, and here's how we can fuel appropriately and get the energy we need for what we want to do. So I went from one-on-one counseling into doing more group presentations, but still the focus, my goal was to do sport nutrition based things. With that commodity group that I worked with, they were really happy with me. They really liked working with me. They were able to introduce me to other local groups that we have. So as I mentioned, in our province, we are ag-based. We grow a lot of different things. So that led me to do some work with our local pulse producers. So things like lentils are really big in our province. I learned more about mustard as a commodity, which I didn't even realize we grew so much of the world's mustard in my province. Did some stuff with our egg producers. So I got sort of into branded or industry related things, whether that was media appearances, attending trade shows or events, creating resources, and eventually that even led to more communications and social media type things. So for those of you who are just joining, it's Stephanie Langdon here, registered dietitian, moderator and curator of WhatRDsDo.com. Please feel free to let me know your questions. I'll be happy to try to answer them throughout this live video, or I will try to get back to them later on. And please let me know if there's someone that you are interested in seeing in the series, whether it's an unconventional, unique career path, someone that switched careers. Maybe they are a second career dietitian. Maybe they have jumped all over the place and done a variety of different things. The series also has people who are in their first job. They feel that they landed their dream job right out of school, and that's where they've been. They've just advanced within that. I do currently have, I believe, about 15 countries represented in the series. So in about 190 interviews, that's quite a variety, but there are still a lot of countries out there that have dietitians that I would love to get featured. So if that's you, let's get your country in this series, because I know people love to see what's going on. Places like, I just had someone from Lebanon. We have an expat living in Luxembourg. Like, there are dietitians doing a variety of different things all over the world. And I think one unique thing about the series is that we can learn the different career paths, because sometimes that is unique for a country. We can learn if dietitian is seen in the same way, if they have the same struggles with celebrities and with fad diets, which that comes up again and again. I think a lot of dietitians, the challenges they face are having to be mythbusters, having to help people sort through all the misinformation out there. And we see that worldwide, so we're definitely not alone in that. So yes, if you have a country or a unique career that you would like to have featured, please reach out to me. You can find all my contact information on WhatRDsDo.com or StephLangdon.com. But yeah, back to myself, I guess, what I did or what I have done as a dietitian. I was working with local commodity groups. I had my daughter, who is now 4.5, so 4.5 years ago, and that definitely changed what I wanted to focus on. I think I took 3 months off, or I attempted to take 3 months off and do no work, and then I gradually got back into things, trying to embrace the idea of, okay, I'm self-employed. This is sort of one of the reasons I do this, so that I can be flexible. It was learning that it wasn't always about a paycheck, trying to figure out like why I was doing what I was doing. I could walk my dog in the middle of the day. I could be flexible and choose to do what I wanted to do. But I feel that having my daughter, becoming a mom, it really allowed me to start learning to say no to things, to figure out what was the right fit. And my husband, who's been there all along, I think we've been together, like we met 17 years ago or something, so he's been a support system for me for sure throughout my 9-year career as a dietitian so far. But he was always like, okay, well, you're self-employed, you're learning valuable skills, but this also allows you to evolve, to pivot. So if you don't enjoy a certain part of it, he's like, why are you still doing that? You have the flexibility to change that. So what started out as a desire to be a sport dietitian doing one-on-one counseling, but which I quickly realized wasn't for me. It wasn't my strength. I found it very draining. I think I was too invested in people. I couldn't just leave my work at my desk. I was always thinking about how I could help these people, how I could do more for them. That then, as I said, evolved into more high school or teen sport nutrition presentations. And then that became more media communications type of consulting. And then that brings us to almost 2 years ago when I had my son. And at that time, I was mostly doing social media types of consulting and communications, which, again, had you asked me 9 years ago when I was starting my business, that wasn't what I ever imagined doing. But the world of social media has come a long way since 2010 when I convocated this series, WhatRDsDo.com. I started it back in September 2015, so even since then, which is almost 4 years ago, social media has changed a lot. The way that private practices exist, the different things dietitians are doing, or maybe I've just been more open to what people around the world are doing. But I feel that that has changed, and we will continue to see those changes. But yeah, when I had my son, I was doing more social media, consulting, communications types of things, which again allowed me to be flexible, to be working from home so that I could be available as a mom. But then it wasn't like a last minute thing, but it sort of came up quickly. We moved from Canada to the US, so I'm currently an expat, and we don't know how long we're going to be here for, so I haven't taken the steps to get certified and registered here in the US yet. So that's another reason I am stay-at-home mom right now. So mom first, dietitian second, and advocate, that just sort of happened. If you're curious, I do have some of these answers and responses on WhatRDsDo.com, like where did the series come from? What is it about? Why was I passionate to start this? Because it is definitely a passion project for me. And I think when you start reading the responses from other dietitians, you really get a positive feeling of how passionate we are for what we do, whether that is helping people in a clinical setting with tube feeds and really making changes, or end-of-life care, or helping those athletes to get, those new performance levels. There's a lot of passion in dietitians, and I think you do start to see some similar personality traits, the type of people who are drawn to the profession. But I started it sort of out of frustration. I was at a dinner party with other dietitians. We had this sort of, I think it was monthly potluck, and we would have different themes. Like we would cook French food one time, and we would cook Italian the next. It was just a great way to get together. But someone made a comment about dietitians can't just make money blogging or something like that. And I was a little offended because I was like, how do you know? Like, I was like, I know people who are online presence, and that is what they're doing. Maybe I don't know fully what they do, but people can make money doing that. And again, this was back in 2015 when people were blogging, and maybe the branded posts, the sponsored posts, the influencer type things weren't as big. But it just got me thinking, and this idea of what RDs do, so what dietitians do. I was frustrated, but it was sort of also eye-opening because I thought, we spend so much time explaining to the public that we are not nutritionists and we are the experts and this is why you should come to us and see us and how we can help you. But I was like, if we ourselves as dietitians don't know what dietitians do, how can we expect the public to? And perhaps it was also because I was in private practice and curious about the possibilities and other things I could be doing. And as an entrepreneur, I started reaching out. So in September 2015, I had my first interview posted on my Blogspot blog. And I think for the first 3 months, it was just local Canadian people that I reached out to that I thought had unique stories. And then I started getting some American dietitians and then some Australian dietitians as the series kept going. And again, I didn't really have a long-term plan for WhatRDsDo, but I believe it was last February, so 2018, I was just sort of like, wow, this is a pretty big thing. There's a lot of people reading this. There's a lot of people interested in sharing stories or recommending things. So I redesigned it, had a logo done up, bought the URL for WhatRDsDo, and just sort of made it a nicer space so that it's not my random recipes and random blog posts. It's just focused on these dietitian interviews. So on WhatRDsDo.com, if you're not familiar with it, I ask people why they became a dietitian, which I think is a really unique one, to find those stories, to hear what it was that inspired someone. Some people, it's an illness in the family. It might be a chronic disease that they themselves are dealing with, or having been a picky eater that they felt like that was a good fit. So the reason behind why people chose the profession is really interesting. I asked them what area they practice in, which obviously is broad. How they would explain what they do. Because to me, when you tell someone you're a dietitian, they jump to their own conclusions of what that means. And it could be very specific what you do and beyond what some people could even imagine that we are capable of. Then just for curiosity, what are typical daily and weekly tasks, which as most people respond, we as dietitians wear a variety of hats. So daily, weekly tasks are often quite varied. So I think that's something to keep in mind if you're considering the profession as well. We do a lot of different things throughout our day and throughout our week. I ask about their career path, which is also a very interesting one to read the answers for. Yeah, thanks, Stacey. I hope you do check it out. There's lots of interesting things. You can search on it too, so if there's a unique field you're interested in, you can search for clinical dietitians, you can search for men in dietetics, you can search for different designations, because there's a variety of credentials we have with our names. So it's definitely meant to be user-friendly, and if you have feedback on it, please let me know. One thing I'm considering doing is adding a map so you can see the different places in the world that dietitians have been featured from so far. But yeah, career path, sorry, getting back to the questions I ask on WhatRDsDo.com. It's a unique one because you might realize why someone is currently doing, or when we consider the world of social media, we might come across someone's profile and think we know that person or think we know what they're doing, and then we read their career path and we think, oh, that's why I see so many articles from this person. They started out as a journalist before they went and got their RD credentials, so that's why they're such a good writer. Or this person actually works in a clinical setting and they do their private practice on the side, or maybe their podcast or their blog posts are just their passion, and that's just how they're helping to sort through misinformation, because a lot of people definitely have sort of their side hustle or their side thing. I feel like dietitians, there's a lot of type A dietitians out there. We tend to keep ourselves quite busy, but a lot of private practices for people start out as just a little side thing. And then there are success stories of people saying, hey, I had this job, but now I've built up my practice. I'm being brave. I'm letting go of my regular paycheck to explore the world of private practice. And then there's people like me who just said, hey, I'm a dietitian now. I complicated. I'm just going to try this business thing out, because it's always going to be a learning curve. If you decide to go into private practice and work for yourself, that will always have challenges. But in the series, you'll see that there are teams of people. So I don't just have individuals on there. I have duos, so people who enjoy doing cooking videos together, or they could just be coworkers in a different setting and they've decided, hey, let's start a blog together. I have trios of people. I have some of the members of the Build Up Dietitians group were featured a year or two ago. I just felt like they were a unique group that came together, so shared a little bit about their backgrounds if that's something you're interested in. I also ask people about advanced education and special training, because I think that's a unique way for us to learn courses or certifications or credentials or different routes we might want to explore. So perhaps you're interested in learning more about eating disorders. You can find out what dietitians are working in that area, what they've taken to educate themselves further. And I think everyone has included at least one way, if not more ways, that you can reach out to them. So when you're on WhatRDsDo.com reading an interview, at the very bottom you'll see more about X, like more about this person, and it will be their website or their Twitter handle or their Facebook page, so that if that is a person you want to connect with, please reach out to them. In my experience, dietitians are very helpful and very willing to share their stories and help other dietitians along the way. So I hope it's also a networking tool. Because it is written interviews and it's searchable, it's also a great resource. So maybe you're taking a study break. Like, it's a great chance to just flip through and search for some different things, get an idea, whether you're a student, an intern, a current dietitian, considering changing careers. It's a great resource to just see what we do, because we don't just all make meal plans. We don't just all work in weight loss. And I think one answer I get from a lot of people is we don't all just work in clinical. So yeah, there's so much out there that we do that people don't know about. I absolutely agree. And I think I still get excited to read all of these interviews, and I'm not even currently practicing, but it might open my eyes to something that I can do when and if I decide to get back in. Okay. Oh, someone from Iraq. Thank you, Build Up Dietitians. I will read the rest of that comment after, but yeah, I don't have anyone featured from Iraq, so hopefully that might mean someone will get into that. But in different countries, there are different challenges in terms of the designations, which I've learned so far. We do know that there are conferences worldwide, so it's a great chance to meet other dietitians. Like, I know I featured, I think it's Monica from South Africa, and she's helping with an upcoming conference. So being in the series was a great way for her to help promote it. So sometimes I get people reaching out to be featured because they just published their first cookbook and they want to share that experience, or they've done something unique that it's sort of another way to just publicly tell our fellow colleagues what we're doing. This, for me, talking about myself and what I do, is very different because I'm used to helping to share your stories. So turning the tables on me is a very unique thing. What's the coolest, neatest RD job I've heard about recently? I'm going to think on that one. There's things that blow me away. Like, I've had a medical doctor dietitian featured. I've had a nurse practitioner featured. So some people have so much education behind them. It's amazing. I think maybe not surprising, but I've had 2 or 3 dietitians featured that are now working in their private practices in the cannabis world, because we're seeing a lot of changes there. So in that way of dietitians trying to keep up on trends and fads, they're trying to be the experts in those fields to help people do things in a healthy, safe way. Trying to think. That's a tough one. Because almost every week when I read an interview that I've reached out to these people, I've known some of these people, it still sometimes surprises me the niches they have, because we even have dietitians that have now created jobs not to coach the public, but to coach other dietitians. So there's dietitians that are helping you start your private practice, or helping you and hoping to coach you through things. There's dietitians that have online marketplaces to help you sell your handouts or your books. Those are some really neat things that I don't think were happening that long ago. And being that one of the sort of challenging questions that I throw at people in this series is, in an ideal world, what does the industry look like 5 years from now? And I've had the series going for almost 4 years. So pretty soon it's going to be interesting to go back and read through some of those responses and see like, what were people hoping would be happening in dietetics 5 years later, because we're almost there. So yeah, it's definitely a passion project for me. I enjoy learning about my colleagues. I enjoy sharing stories about my colleagues, hopefully helping to inspire people to become dietitians, helping aspiring dietitians to find their group if they're not sure what that might be, or helping us to just become the experts that we want everyone to know that we are, to reach out, to help support each other. I think we always experience dietitians that might be butting heads or dietitians that might be on the same team and trying to work together. So hopefully we can help support each other, knowing that I think deep down we hopefully have similar goals when it comes to helping people lead healthy lives, but there are a variety of ways to do that. The non-traditional, unconventional jobs, a dietitian might have the designation, but the job that they do doesn't even require them to be a dietitian, but they feel that their unique educational background helps them out, because we learn a lot of unique things in our undergrads, and we learn how to manage, we learn how to communicate, we learn these different things, and obviously programs change with the times, but we see that if you have a unique interest in media or in creating workshops or recipe development, or if you're a really good photographer, like there's so many unique skills that can go along with what we do. There's people that are podcasting, there's all kinds of unique blogs and dietitians writing stories for magazines. It's great to continue to see people out there doing fabulous things. Part of the series, things that I enjoy, is that I have shared careers of dietitians that I actually know. I've met some dietitians at conferences before or after featuring them, which is always nice to actually do the in real life sort of stories. And yes, absolutely happy that I was able to feature the Build Up team. I do also try to update the interviews because things change. I know I was looking at my own because one of my fellow Saskatoon dietitians, Brooke Bullock, at one point she said, "Why aren't you in your series?" So she sort of did a little sneak peek and took over the page for 1 week, and I was the interviewee. But I was reading it last night, and it's accurate, but it's not up to date because currently I'm a mom. I'm not practicing, so I need to go back and update my own answers. But teams like Build Up Dietitians, they have expanded their team, so there is the opportunity to add more of those individuals so that you can get to meet them as well. So I find it interesting because you get to know more than you might think of a person from their Instagram page or from their tweets. You get to know the story behind why they got into the profession, the challenges they face, which often comes up, difficulties, myths that we have. We're not the food police. We enjoy all kinds of food. Those are often the things that we see. Like, we are real people, even if people feel that they can't invite us to potlucks or that we're judging them. We know that we're not, or hopefully we're not. But you will sort of, it reminds me that we've found our group, that I feel like I was meant to be a dietitian when I read these other responses, because I think I share a lot of personality traits with others. Just trying to think what else I can tell you. I've been talking away here, and I will go back through questions to see if I missed anything. But please put in your questions. I'll be sure to check back on this post later too if you didn't catch it live. I know we're heading into the long weekend, so you might already be on the road. I have my lovely children out at the playground with their dad because he managed to get today off, so I'll be out there to hopefully enjoy some sunshine if the sun comes out of the fog today. But yeah, if you have some questions, I'm going to hang out here for another minute or so, but this is Stephanie Langdon, registered dietitian, originally from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, currently in San Francisco, mom, dietitian, and advocate. I am the moderator and curator of WhatRDsDo.com. You can follow me on Instagram, WhatRDsDo. You can follow me on Twitter at NutritiousRD, and that's because my private practice back in Canada was called Something Nutritious. You can find my Facebook page, Steph Langdon RD, or at NutritiousRD. You can also just search the hashtag WhatRDsDo because I'm using that on my posts. And if you want to know just more about myself, I did sort of, as much as I need to update my WhatRDsDo interview of myself, I did create stephlangdon.com, which talks about my career path, what I've done, who I've worked with, things that I mentioned today, sort of starting out in the sport world, getting into presentations and workshops, and ending in communications and consulting type work. Currently as a mom, who knows what will come next in the dietetic field, but for me right now, this series lets me feel that I'm still connected. It helps me keep on top of trends and gives me some great networking connections for sure, so that when and if I am back practicing, I'm able to figure out what that right fit is for me, because we all have unique skills, we all have unique strengths and passions, and it's great to see that a lot of people have been able to work in a field that they feel so passionately about and do work that seems to really align with their goals. Even if they're doing two completely different things, it seems like they can tell you the story behind why that is and what they've done, or how their background landed them there. Because yeah, there's no one straight path to being a dietitian. And if you check out the series, you'll see the different master's degrees, the different courses. Like there's MBAs, there's lactation specialists, we have pediatric, geriatric, retail, grocery, various jobs for sure. So if you're not sure what a dietitian can be, or if you're just maybe not happy in your current setting, there's lots of available things out there. So reach out to other dietitians, shoot me an email, steph@nutritious.com, or you can do that on WhatRDsDo.com as well. You can reach out to me that way. So I hope I didn't speak too fast for you. My passion tends to come across in a little bit of speed. But again, thank you for joining me, Stephanie Langdon of WhatRDsDo.com. I hope you have a great long weekend here. And yeah, I'll be catching you online, if not via email, or perhaps meeting you up in person if that's possible for us. So thank you very much. I will be saying goodbye here for now, and I'll be checking in on those comments and questions. Thank you for having me. Bye.